She's one of the coolest women in the film industry. She's always chosen whatever she's believed in. Her work and her personality is pretty much in the same zone. Thank you so much for doing this, Kalki.
Thanks, Rudrani. Good to see you again.
Good to see you again. Let me start with saying congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, we did have a long chat about how excited I am for you.
My best friend and I are both pregnant, yeah.
And that's crazy. Sometimes you feel it's meant to be. Does it feel like that?
I mean, it's like it had to happen to us because we have a same wire connection. Like when we get together, people are a bit like, why are they so happy? Why do they laugh so much? You know, so I think, yeah, it was meant to happen, I guess.
You've always been extremely open about the kind of value system you follow, which of course is reflecting in the path that you walk. The fact that you wanted to choose a gender fluid name is something that is phenomenal. It doesn't really happen. So could you elaborate on that as to why the decision came through and why it was important for you to do it?
In my case, I just really love the personality. It's the name I've chosen is of a famous person, and I love the personality of that person. Of course, this is only if I get a girl. If it's a boy, then Guy has chosen a name. So yeah, and his name is also a famous personality. So yeah, but of very different types. So it's just, I think there are certain people that inspire you, or certain things that inspire you, or that bring back a story. For me, the connection of this person is it's a poet, and it's one of the first books Guy gifted me. So there's a lot of story behind it. So that's why we wanted that name. You know, we are in a generation where thankfully we're aware of gender fluidity, and we're aware that, that it's fine to be any gender, and there's a whole umbrella of other genders as well, not just male and female, and you got to be prepared for that too.
Everybody seems to have an opinion about how what you should be doing. So what have been some of the weirdest advices you've got till now during your pregnancy, which you've sort of skipped?
There's lots of articles that come to me every day from all sorts of people, from like saving your placenta, eating your placenta, freezing your placenta. All this placenta talk is going on. Then there's, of course, what you should eat and not eat, ghar ka khana only, and it's very hard for me because I'm working and traveling, so sometimes I do bring my tiffin, but many times I have to eat out. Then, of course, the tight clothes during pregnancy is a big judgment. Why are you wearing such tight clothes? What's wrong with you? Shame on you. But, you take it as it. I'm just like, thank you for the advice. Thank you. I'll just say thanks. It's nice you care. It's nice that you spent the time to go out and give me advice. Then I'll decide what I want to take and not take.
You went for Kareena's show.
Yeah.
And I think you guys are getting papped outside, and I could see Kareena talking about how, oh my God, and admiring your frame and saying that, oh my God, look at you, and I was not like this during my pregnancy. I think it was such a candid moment because Kareena also sort of didn't do things the normal way, and how in society they say that you're not supposed to work too hard, you're not supposed to.
She was working throughout, and she looked great during her pregnancy.
But she did give that compliment back to you.
Yes,
isn't it?
Absolutely. I think it's one day at a time, because really your hormones are up and down. You have good days, you have bad days, you have good hours and bad hours. And it's my first pregnancy, so I'm learning as I go along. I'm doing a lot of research, whether it's like calling my gynaec or speaking on a community group about pregnancy, or speaking to professionals, to yoga teachers, to all kinds of people. I just want to get all the information, and then decide what I want to do. And I don't want to take it too many steps ahead. Like, let's get done with third trimester, which is a challenge in itself of just being huge and carrying that weight and all of that. And of course, I'm really preparing for that birth, which I'm doing, which is a water birth. But other than that, I really don't know about the future. I don't know what kind of parent I'll be. I don't know how I'll deal with, this live creature, and how am I going to handle it? How is breastfeeding going to be? I guess, I hope somebody gives me a breast pump soon.
Here, if any of you Kalki friends,
I think I'm going to be a traveling mother.
you will be.
Yeah.
Is Guy that calming factor also in your life? Is he like that?
He's very calm, I have to say, much calmer than me.
Really?
And yeah. I'm not so calm. I'm quite like
worrying
hectic and yeah. Actually, he worries a lot too, but somehow he contains it very well. And also, I think maybe it's just the nature of his work. He's somebody who wakes up early in the morning and practices Bach and Schubert, and then goes and teaches children and orchestras and composes and comes back and again works on his piano. So it's like a very internal kind of work. So he doesn't get easily swayed by like, people around and judgments and things like that. He's quite an introvert.
It's been many years for you in this industry, and one thing that I know you for a few years, and I know that hasn't changed, is your passion for the craft, obviously, and also your will to still do different things, which has been you from the beginning. Was that a challenge in your life when trying to do something different was difficult? Because you were not getting those things.
I just am different. So it wasn't like a conscious thing, I'm going to try and be different. It was like, something comes your way, you're like, do I want to do this? Yes, because it's challenging, or no, because, I don't think I'll gain anything from it. So I think that's how people look at you, as being different from the outside. But you just think you're a normal person. You've grown up with yourself your whole life, So for me, what I'm doing is just continuing to be myself as much as I can. I mean, you do have a lot. What comes with fame and with popularity is that you get a lot of influences, again, advice on how you should be, how you should present yourself, what should be your next step.
Correct.
So finding that balance is tough. Like, how, where do I make the decision myself, and where do I let other people take the decision forward?
Have you found that balance?
I don't know. I still struggle with it, I think. PR is a good example. I've recently gotten PR, and it's something that I see the value of in terms of, moving forward in your career and sort of bringing your work out. But at the same time, I also find like how much of that is really you. You're putting out so much information which is so catered and so polished, and then what about the real you, and do you want people to see the real you? So these are like little bit existential questions in my head, but I don't mind trying and experimenting. That's how you learn.
Do you think the real you sort of is whatever you put out a little on Instagram?
Obviously, when I'm like all decked up and I'm putting my beauty photos, that's not how I look first thing in the morning. But I also put up pictures first thing in the morning too. So that's what I just keep a balance of it. There are times where my manager is like, okay, why have you put up this picture of yourself? Or, like some random thing I'll put up, which is affecting my life. So I think it's good to have that little bit of reality touch in there.
Now, you've always said that even though you never looked at yourself like an outsider, but in a country where you grew up, and you felt like the people stared at you because you were white and all of that. And eventually, of course, you learned how to deal with that as well. Did you feel that in the industry as well, when you stepped in the beginning, and has that changed for you today?
I think it has changed, because I remember going to these big parties like a Kejo birthday bash or something, and I would just not know who to speak to. I didn't know anyone, and I felt very intimidated to approach people, and nobody wanted to just like chat to me. So I would usually sit at the bar and hope somebody would come, and and then I have a random conversation with somebody there. But over the years now, I found that okay, now I kind of understand who everyone is, and they also understand who I am. And I don't think that we see each other as any sort of threat. I think that there's just different sensibilities and different choices that people make, and it's totally possible to work in the same environment together. So I feel I'm more comfortable today.
Today the conversations are not so awkward.
Oh no, not so awkward,
Not
not
at
so awkward. Yeah, the conversations then were terrible because I wouldn't recognize the person, and it was like a really famous person, and then I'm like, so what do you do? I'm an actor, like really famous one. But I feel all actors should introduce themselves. I do it every single time.
Really?
I'm like, yeah, if I meet somebody I don't know, I'll say, hi, I'm Kalki. And I feel like, why don't actors do that? You know, I mean, you can't always be guaranteed that someone will know you.
Twitter, you had forever changed the handle name and written Kalki Koechlin so that people would stop calling you Koechlin and all of that.
Yes.
But now do you finally think they've got a hang of it after you've publicly made sure the handle has changed?
It's really funny, yeah. The other day, my friend that I'm doing my BBC podcast with, she was like, you know, I told them how you pronounce your name. It's Kalki Koechlin. And I told them I'm working with her, I know her name. And they were like, you mean my whole life is a lie? I've always said Kalki Koechlin. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, for some people it really matters. For me, it doesn't matter so much. I do it because that's my name. I say what my real name is.
Yeah.
But if people get it wrong, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. What's in a name?
What's in a name? So you got separated, and when you got divorced from Anurag, how everybody around you suddenly asked you how are you dealing with the divorce and questions like that. I want to talk about that phase, because it was a very sort of mutual divorce. You all remain friends till today, and you looked at it with a certain maturity. What was that phase like? Can you define it to me?
It was very frustrating, to be honest. More because it wasn't just me being affected, but my whole family. Like people in Bangalore, neighbors of my parents, were asking them, oh, is this true? Did this happen? You know, like just trying to get all this gossip. And I felt bad that they had to answer or whatever, deal with that on my behalf. So I do remember withdrawing a little because I was so candid, especially with media.
You were.
Me and Anurag would always talk about our relationship, and I've believed in being candid as much as possible. But then I realized that it can be sort of, it can be manipulated and used in a way that's not nice, Every time I went out for dinner with a guy, I was dating him. Same with Anurag, if he was seen with a girl. So all those things are like, so I kind of withdrew. I went on a holiday, a solo trip. I spent a lot of time with myself, surfing, going back to Pondicherry. And I think that's also just a good thing to do once in a while, especially when we're in the limelight all the time and we're always living off the opinions of others. It's important to know who you are inside. If all of that was taken away from you, who are you really?
Yeah. And I think reconnecting with oneself is also important.
Yeah.
The reason I ask that also is because I see from that moment, and I know that you did withdraw yourself, is because I felt then you realize that now I'm going to protect my life and keep it really private.
Yeah.
Because from there, I saw like a veil. Am I sort of right?
Yeah, definitely with my private life. I don't feel like talking about all of my, my intimate secrets and, even like say how me and Guy met. It's a lovely story, but it's not for everyone. Or maybe it is in like 20 years, but it's not something at the moment I want to publicize, because then it's just like, it just becomes like people are just going to pontificate and extend it and make it into something which it isn't, and all of that. So although I don't want to hide my relationships, and I don't want to, I don't want to hide, at the same time, I'm not going to just like pour out my life. I want to be in the press for the work I do and have a private life outside of that. I think more so now that I'm having a baby, I think, it's important that your child has a little bit of that, I would say, normalcy, where they're not going to a school or something where they're constantly being asked about their parents.
Yeah. And it's going to be difficult now because, paparazzi is so much more than it was. Does it scare you a little, thinking, because, you spoke about normalcy?
Yeah, let's see. Again, it's too far ahead to say. But I think it's possible to have, it's not that I want to hide my child away again, I'm not going to not let people see my child or have a picture of my child on social media. It's just that I don't want that to be the center of that child's life.
Yeah.
I want, my child to like grow up climbing trees and like seeing lemons on lemon trees and seeing where food comes from and creatures in the ground and not just, in front of a screen.
Yeah.
Not just watching things on his or her mobile.
If you had to pick up a few roles that sort of define you as a person as well from your filmography, what would you pick up and why?
3 films, okay. One, of course, will be Margarita with a Straw, because it was just such a long process, 6 months of prep and a huge transformation, and taught me so much about being disabled, especially in a country where there's so little access for the disabled. Another would be Devdi, because it's just my first film, and I think you learn so much on your first film. Yeah, it's just a great memory, that first film that you do. I guess actually Aditi from Ye Jawani, because after that I had kids who knew me and they wanted my photo, because before that I'd done like Shaitan and Devdi and it was very adult films. So after Ye Jawani I had like a whole new audience of like family members and children, and I don't know, it just connects with people in a much more massy way.
Spoken to Shonali, and Shonali told me about, we were recollecting about how much of an effort it took for her during Margarita with a Straw to even like release the film or to push it out.
Yeah.
Because that film was looked upon as this untouchable subject, because you had the lead was disabled and she was bisexual and all of that. She said that if the leads were men, I'm sure it would have been easier to get funding at the time, and I would have obviously never done that. Do you see that changing for real as well?
I think the changes are happening, and it works both ways. I think that as an audience, we need to put our money where we want to put it. So we can't be like, Bollywood's making rubbish films, they make the same thing, but we go and watch those films and put money, and producers are only going to think about that. If they're going to make money, they'll make another film exactly like it. So what are we choosing as an audience changes the content that we get made. And then for people in the industry like us, I mean, I just think it's a blessed time because of the kind of OTT platforms and all the other separate ways of getting work and content out there. It's just become a global world. It's just easier to get a film into a festival. It's easier to get a film on a platform. So that just means a lot more variety is there.
Got typecasted after you did the initial roles, where they only sort of offered to you that, whether the character is either doing drugs or is into a prostitution, all of that. Now, stereotyping is something that the industry has done very often. Does that happen to you today?
It always happens.
Yeah?
It happens after every film you do. After whatever film you do, you'll immediately guaranteed the next film will be of the same genre and the same character.
Even now?
Even now. I swear, after even Margarita, a film as different as Margarita, I got offered disability roles right after. So people just say, oh, she's capable of doing this, let's make her do this. And it's our job as actors to be like, okay, yeah, I can do that, but I can also do this. So I do try to mix it up or try to do that. But that stereotyping is a constant thing you're battling, and you're like, hey, send me something else. No, please.
No, but it's surprising that because I was hoping you'd
I
tell me.
want to play like a loud Punjabi who has bubble gum in her mouth all the time,
I love that.
Like, why don't you guys see that in me? I think it's just a habit. We look at someone and we say, oh, this person is from the South, or they're Muslim, or they're this, or they're old, or we categorize people.
Yeah.
We do it in our unconscious lives.
Yeah.
So it's even more so in the limelight.
And tell me that there is no indie tag attached to you anymore, which again you told me you had battled for quite some time. A tag of you doing indie films.
There is.
There still is?
There is, a little bit. Now it's the OTT platforms, right? Now she's the OTT girl.
What they call you?
Yeah. But I've always had like those commercial films come few and far between. You know, Gully Boy was great to be part of. And then I have all these small indie projects which happen, as well as my theatre. And I'm pretty busy with all of it, so I'm not complaining.
What are a few things or a few genres that you really hope that you get to sort of sink your teeth in the future?
I'd love to do a rom-com, you know, just a happy film where I get the guy in the end instead of killing him.
Killing him or
Yes,
doing
exactly.
something crazy.
Yeah, just a happy rom-com. That would be great. I think it'd be nice to do a historical character, like a biopic. Of course, it's every actor's dream to do a biopic.
Yeah.
I'd love to do an action film. A kick-ass action film, like Tomb Raider types.
Nice.
Great.
What is it that you've imbibed from your struggles? And what is it that you learned to ignore today?
What I've learned from my struggles?
Yeah.
I guess I've learned to make peace with the inconsistency, that you will have times where you feel like you'll never get work again, and you will have times where you only have one big success and attention, like ball of attention in you all the time. You know, you go through those phases.
Yeah.
I had like 3 or 4 releases in 1 year, then I didn't have any releases in another year. So I've made peace with that's life, and when you're in those slumps, find other things to do, be creative, keep yourself inspired. You know, that's I've become better at that. I've choose to ignore random comments on social media. I used to be like I'm going to battle these people one by one. I'm going to talk to them and show them how human I am. You know, I used to write back to my trolls and be like, why are you saying this? Or do you want to have a cup of coffee and talk about it? Yeah. And now I'm like, you know what? It's probably somebody else having a bad day and putting it out there, or it's a paid troll, and there's really no point in putting my creative energy there. I have so many other things I can be putting in. I value criticism, but it comes from people who know my work, people who are professionals in the work. So yeah.
Female sexuality still needs to be celebrated the way it needs to be celebrated and normalized. Objectification is not the way to do it. Do you think that has changed? Do you see that changing in the Hindi film scenario?
I mean, I guess we are seeing some exceptions of like female role models and female heroines, which are not dependent on a male hero. Deepika, I would say, is one in Piku, for example, Kangana in Queen. So we have these spurts of it. But overall, I don't think we've really gotten to that stage. Worldwide, I think we still are very stereotypical and sexist about women. And how often do you see a script about a lead character who's in her 50s, a female role? I mean, you have your exceptional Meryl Streep, but you don't have that many, definitely not in our country. And it's not like we don't have the capable actors of that age. We do have a long way to go. The only way is for women to be more empowered, to be in places where they make those choices also, where they can be choosing content. So not just female actors being out there in the limelight, but female producers, female writers and directors. And you know, Zoya is a great example of that.
Bhumi and Tapsi were telling me it was such a relief not to be fighting for a, you know, male lead, and to be working together, even for the script wise, and in promotions they've been all out saying, you know, this is a sisterhood that we cherish.
Think about the number of men who are going to watch that film and what that'll do to change their perspective. Isn't that so exciting?
It is.
And also, I've had this many times where, you know, random people, especially when I go through airport security, I always get a little chit chat with that lady who checks you inside behind the curtain. I think there's that little private moment. So she's like, "Ha, aap actor ho? Kya karte ho? Kya kar rahe hain?" You know, all this little conversation will happen, and she'll be like, "Aapka film hai kya? Koi aapki film?" So I'll be like, "Yeah, I have a film release." You know, so once it was Margarita, and she's like, "Hero kaun hai?" I said, "Main hu." And another time it was Ribbon. I said, they asked me who's the hero. I said, "Well, kind of me and Sumit." You know, so it's a new thing still for people to understand that females can be heroes.
It is, and I completely believe they can be, and they
Absolutely.
are. But thank you once again, Kalki. Thank you for walking the talk, if I can say so. Thank you for always walking the talk, and congratulations once again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you once again, Kalki.
Watch E-Town News Monday to Friday at 9:30 p.m. only on Zoom.